Hey all, and welcome to Caboose Divergent Discussions. So I'm here with Brooke today, the wonderful Brooke, and we're gonna go and talk about rejection sensitivity dysphoria and all the fun things. So Caboose is a platform for neurodivergent people, organizations, and communities, and it bridges the gap between lived experience and everyday reality through community built by people who get it and microlearning designed to actually help. And I'm Tina, your host today. And I also have lived experience with autism and ADHD through people in my life. So I'm really excited to be having this conversation with Brooke today. So, Brooke is a neurodivergent experienced professional who knows how to make people feel genuinely seen. She brings years of experience supporting adults, not by fixing, but by building on what's already there. And her approach is strength based, her environment is always safe and inclusive, and her focus is simple helping people grow, navigate challenges, and actually thrive. So, welcome, Brooke, and we're so grateful to have you here today.
Thanks so much, Tina. It's wonderful to be here. I'm really excited to join in on these divergent discussions.
Awesome. We're super excited to pick your brain and learn more about this. So, without further ado, let's jump into our first question. For those who haven't heard the term before, how would you describe rejection sensitivity dysphoria?
Yeah. So, rejection sensitivity dysphoria, or RSD, I describe as emotional sunburn. Okay, it's almost like our emotions are sunburnt, they're covered, and it means they're really sensitive to anything that touches. So, if we think about someone walking up and tapping someone on the back and saying, "Hey, can I talk to you later?" or "Can you come and see me in my office in a workplace environment?" The emotional sunburn means that that tap on the shoulder feels pain, it feels like a threat, it feels like things are awful, and your brain starts catastrophizing that that chat is not about anything good. It's going to be that I'm going to be fired. And you start down this catastrophization frame of mind with it.
Amazing. So, it sounds like you're very sensitive towards things and maybe overly sensitive.
People would describe it as overly sensitive. And often they describe it, managers that I work with will tell me that employees are overreacting, that they've been given feedback and they're overreacting to it. What it is with the RSD, it's not an overreaction, it is the RSD reaction, which is to go, that is painful, it's a threat, and I need to respond to that threat. And they respond to it in different ways with that. Inside, if we think about a neurotypical brain, they're not going to react to those words in the same way that a neurodivergent brain with someone with RSD would have, right? So a neurotypical person, "Hey, can we have a chat this week?" will see that as, "Hey, we want to have a chat this week and there's nothing bad about it." Whereas the RSD transforms those sentences into large catastrophization and makes it seem like almost a life and death situation with that chat.
Wow. And what makes the difference between someone who's neurotypical versus someone who is neurodivergent, and perhaps what causes that catastrophization?
There's a couple of things that feed into it. So first off, if we think about a neurotypical child and their brain formation years, so in those neurodevelopment years in the first 5 years of life, there's research that's shown that an ADHD child has received 20,000 more negative messages than a neurotypical child. So when those neural pathways are forming, every single one of those experiences has been bad. It has been some sort of criticism or some sort of response you need to change, right? Now, the neurotypical child hasn't had those thousands of experiences. So their neural pathways have formed differently. They know that that conversation could be a good thing or it could be a bad thing, and you're not going to know till you go in there. Whereas the neurodivergent child thinks, "I've only had bad things from those experiences, so it is going to be a bad thing." And that begins to prep the body for that bad thing happening. And also, the RSD comes into play the more out of balance your own nervous system is. Okay, so if we think about a balanced nervous system, that is one that is equal. So I describe it a bit like the day and night cycle. So you've got daylight when you're nice and calm and relaxed, and then you go into dusk when you go, "Something's happened, I'm scared, my eyes go down, my adrenaline rushes." And then we go into night where we stay in like this hypervigilance response. And then we go through dawn and we reconnect, right? Now, in a balanced nervous system, all of those things are equal. In an out of balance nervous system, day is really short, dusk is tiny, so we go 0 to 100 with no warning, and night is really long. So we're spending most of our time in this hypervigilant state looking for things that are going to go wrong with us. And then it takes us a really long time to reconnect. Now, that means when we start having experiences, our body is looking in that hypervigilant state, and our brain is going, I have to keep us safe. So, therefore, I have to make sure that everything is going to be okay. So, I need to prepare for the worst case scenario inside this.
Hmm. It sounds like it's a self-fulfilling prophecy as well, where you're looking for all the negative things, and as a result, you're confirming. It's like a confirmation bias, right?
Absolutely. And even if something is like really neutral and negative, so people often say to me, oh, we use sanitized phrases and we make sure everything's neutral when we write our emails. Neutral to the RSD brain is negative. They're going to find everything that's wrong. So I use the example in my blogs of I received a complaint last year. And even though I presented to over 4,000 people last year and I had 3,000 positive comments. This one complaint was what my brain was focusing on. And my brain goes into, well, you should just leave. You should just quit. Don't do this job anymore. You're doing harm. You are not in the right place. Everyone hates you. And you get this real self doubt and self shame that builds up from it. Right. And that is the RSD coming into play.
Wow. It sounds like an echo of what you said in the early years, the programming that you got from other people putting you down. It's just repeating itself all over again. And can't wait to explore that and hopefully crack that today as well. And when you're when you're in that spiral of RSC, what does it actually feel like? Can you try to put us in the shoes of, say, when you're there and you receive that one negative comment? What are your thoughts? What are you feeling? Yeah, what is that like?
Yeah. So the first thing that happens is that, well, in my body in particular, my body freezes and my heart will start racing. I become very, very nauseous. I have a full stress response from there. And then it depends on what scenario it's in. If I'm reading an email, my immediate reaction will be, I have to protect myself. Yeah. I have to defend myself. I have to explain. I have to tell them everything that is going on from there. Whereas if it's a face to face, I tend to then go more internal and I go, okay, well, now I have to do everything perfectly forever so that I never make this mistake again and feel this way again. Right. And what happens is the self talk gets really, really bad. So there's a common thing, particularly in workplaces, where if there's an issue in a work environment, the manager won't give you the full details about what it is that the issue is. And they do that whole can we chat, can we have a meeting thing. And they want to explain it face to face so that they can explain it in a very safe and subtle way. The RSD loves that. They love not having the details because the RSD makes up the details and it makes it far worse than anything from what is actually happening. So when I'm talking about managers with dealing with employees with RSD, I'm saying actually tell them what the issue is and tell them straight because you're going to do less harm by telling them what the issue is than by leaving it open because their brain is going to make it up. And it is, like I said, it's going to be far, far worse than anything that's ever happened because the RSD will take them to the very worst case scenario. Right up until from, and the number of coaching clients I've worked with who will start with, yeah, I got told that I wasn't performing as well on my KPIs that I need to. And then they tell me, so I'm going to lose my house. And I'm sort of looking and going, well, how did you make that connection? How did you get there? And they're like, well, it's obvious because they're going to fire me next week when they have this meeting because my KPIs aren't with there. And if they fire me, I can't pay my mortgage. And if I can't pay my mortgage, I lose my house. And then I'm going to lose my partner because I haven't got my house anymore and I've let the whole family down. Right. And it's that spiral that we get taken into.
How do you get out of that?
The very the very first step is to know what RSD is. and to be able to say to your brain, and I often say it out loud, I go, this is an RSD flare. This is it right here. This is not, even though it feels incredibly painful, it feels incredibly real, it's not real. It is a natural biological response through my neurotransmitters, my hormones reacting to what is being said. Right? If I am by myself, I high five my heart, which I don't know if you've come across that technique before. It comes out of trauma-informed practice, but you put your hand over your heart and you close your eyes, and you can repeat it after me if you want, Tina. So, I am okay.
I am okay.
I am safe.
I'm safe.
I am loved.
I'm loved.
And you can do that a couple of times, and that creates an immediate calm on your nervous system. I don't know whether you felt that with you, but I did with mine. And that's often a nice way of just, you see it straight away, but having something that will trigger you to step you back from that immediate reaction. So anything grounding, so going out and walking on the grass can really help because it just grounds your nervous system and calms you down. I'm hyposensitive, so with my little fidget mate Bernie, he has his spikes and I can stick my fingers on them and cause quite a bit of pain to the point where I can feel it, but it doesn't draw blood, but it will balance my nervous system. And it takes me out of that immediate response with it. The other one I use a lot is the statement, and that's okay. And that's particularly when my brain goes into that catastrophization mode of this is going to happen, and then this is going to happen, and this is going to happen. Whereas if we can say, I've been called into a meeting this week about my KPIs, or I've been called into a meeting because there's issues in my team, and that is okay, that stops that rest of that catastrophization because it puts a full stop or a period at the end of that sentence. So saying anything. So I made a spelling mistake on that presentation, and that is okay. My friend canceled on me today, and that is okay. That's that radical acceptance. And when I talk with people about that, they'll try it, and then they'll look at me and go, "But it's not okay because these are all things happening." And I'm like, yeah, I understand that, but we look at it. First thing we've got to do is calm the nervous system, and that's okay. Calms the nervous system down and prevents it. And it's funny when I work with full organizations, so I'll go away for a couple of years and I'll come back, and it's almost in their rhetoric inside how they talk. So they'll be having a conversation. They'll go, oh, and we didn't get that in on time, but that's okay. And then we didn't do this, and that's okay. And then they all look at me and laugh and go, yeah, we're using it. We're using it because we get into this, everything is life or death in that response. And it's not.
And it sounds like what you're doing is you're regulating yourself first. So it sounds like it's more of a physical thing. And you first, because even if we say that's okay or go into the more logical processing afterwards, it doesn't really matter until we actually physically step on some grass, breathe it out, and do some physical things.
The logic comes from the prefrontal cortex, right? It comes from up here. Now, the prefrontal cortex in people born female isn't fully developed until 18 to 24, and in people born male, fully developed from 24 to 32. And for females, generally with neurodivergent females and males, it's around 30% delayed with it. If we're relying on the prefrontal cortex to logic our way out of it, we're not going to be able to, because that part of our brain is not connected when we're in that stress response. When we're in a stress response, we're dealing with this part of the brain, the limbic system, what we do with habits and routines, anything to keep us safe. And it also comes into it that we need to have dopamine in our system to be able to move from the limbic brain into the prefrontal cortex. If we don't have that dopamine in the system to do that, then we can't logic our way out of something. Now, for most neurodivergent people, so Dr. Stuart Shanker talks about it, that we are hypo-neurodivergent. So Dr. Stuart Shanker talks about the fact that we are hypodopamigenic. We don't have as much dopamine in our system because we're using the dopamine for other tasks like fitting in, masking, translating, scripting, all of those things. And that means that we can't access that part of our brain to logically talk us out of things. So it is that we call it a bottom up technology. What are you doing with your body first to calm your nervous system so that then you can go into the logic of how you deal with it and how you talk yourself down?
I love it. And it sounds like when we're spiraling as well, we're pretty much stuck in our heads and just going through all the thoughts and ruminations. And it's interesting as well because using creativity and
Yeah,
imagination, when you said your client was like, when you said, "Oh, it will be okay," and the client goes, "What if it's not okay? And what if they just use your imagination to keep spiraling?" But it sounds like in this case, we can also use our imagination for good as well and spiral
yeah.
upwards after we've regulated. So, yeah,
It's a lot
thanks for sharing
harder.
that.
Yeah, a lot harder to use the imagination for good than bad because it takes a lot more effort for the good than the bad.
I can imagine. And when you talk about radical acceptance when it
Yeah.
comes to RSD, could you give an example of what that looks like?
The first radical acceptance is, like I said, that, and that's okay, just accepting what is going to come and finishing the sentence with it. The other thing is actually, and the radical acceptance is very much when you dig into the data of what it is that you're looking at, right? So if you've got this email, we want to talk, then your brain's going through, have I done something wrong, right? Now, if you have done something wrong, for example, if you punched your colleague in the face, then it would be very natural to turn up very nervous to that meeting, right? But what the RSD is doing is going, you haven't punched them in the face, but you might have and not been aware that you did. And you're going to be treated like you've punched them in the face, right? So the radical acceptance is looking at it going, okay, what is inside my control to deal with right now with this? So that can be, and again, your prefrontal cortex needs to be online with this. If you're still in the emotional brain, you're not going to be able to do this. But to email back and say, sure, can you please give me some specifics or an agenda for that meeting of what we're going to be discussing? Okay. And that's often something that us as neurodivergent people don't do because we're scared that it's going to trigger more. But what we're doing is seeking the clarification of what's there. And this is where I love AI for this. And I use AI constantly for my RSD. So, like, I'll get an email, I'll be incredibly upset about it. I'll walk away, I'll go and ground myself. I go and do several different activities to calm my body down and reset my nervous system. And then I go back and I'll copy the email into Goblin Tools, which I'm not sure if you use Goblin Tools, but I love it with a passion. Goblin Tools is probably the best AI for neurodivergent people out there. So it's got a section in it called Judge, where you can copy and paste any email in, and it will tell you the tone that the email has been written in and how that person feels about you. And a number of times I've gone in and I've popped the email into Judge, and it's gone, this person is so happy with you and your work and how well you're doing, and they really appreciate everything you're doing. And this word means this, and this word means this. And I'm looking at going, I read it completely wrong because my RSD was reading it and looking for what I did wrong in that period. The other thing I love with Goblin Tools is in the do section, you can type in any task and you can change how neurospicy you want it to be. 5 chilies is maximum neurospicy, and 1 is minimum. And if you have it on 5, it will give you every step involved in doing that. So you don't have to do any sequencing or working out what you're doing when your brain and that cognitive overload is gone. Goblin Tools can separate it down for you into step by step by step. Yeah.
Is it goblet tools or goblin tools?
Goblin, like the little evil things. Goblin, Goblin. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, wow. What a good
It's
resource.
free on the website, $2.99 on the app, and it's I use it every day for it. And with the Judge one as well, you can have, judge the tone and then click suggest a response, and it will tell you what to write back to them if you want to. But
That's
huge
amazing.
range of things there.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
Yeah,
other way
thanks
I
for all the
use
share,
AI
Brooke.
is, it's all right. I'll actually type in how I'm feeling. So I'll give you an example. I wasn't invited to present at a conference this year that I've presented at the last 2 years, and my RSD immediately went to, oh my God, I must have done just a horrific job last year. Everyone must have hated me. They must have had complaints, etc. And I typed in to AI, and if you're not used to using AI, always give it a role. So in this case, I put, you are a neurodivergent counselor and guidance support person. And then I put, my RSD is flaring up. I haven't been invited to present at this conference. What's going on? And it literally talked me through all the reasons why they change presenters every 2 years and what I should look for and what questions I could ask if I'm really concerned. And it just puts a different lens on it for you. With leaders that I work with that have employees with RSD, I'll actually get them to use AI to type into the email they want to send of, we want to have a chat with you this week. But it will say, we want to have a chat with this employee this week. They have RSD. Write this email for me. And the email is so much nicer to read and is not triggering the person because it gives the calm down statements. And, you put in there that we want to talk to them about, we feel they're overworking, for example, which is one that comes through a lot with our neurodivergent employees, particularly those with RSD, because they try and, like I said, be perfect and make sure that they're not going to do anything wrong. So they'll work 60 hours, but only write down 40 on their timesheet is a really common one I deal with. And then they start burning out. So employers will the manager will be like, I want to talk to them about this, but I don't want to offend them. And then the AI helps them write it in a way that keeps them calm before they come in for that conversation. And then I work with the leader about how to have that conversation in a calm and supportive way without triggering it more. Yeah.
I love AI. And when it comes to supporting people with RSD, what can, you know, partners or friends or managers do more to support them?
Yeah, I think learning about RSD is a really big thing. The more I talk about it in presentations, it's probably the biggest thing that people latch onto. And I'll get people saying, I had one was it last week or the week before, of, is that why my friend flipped out at a hotel buffet when she put her croissant in the toaster oven? And a stranger said to her, you're not allowed to do that. See, there's a sign. And my friend couldn't talk for the rest of the week and was sobbing. And I went, yeah, that's RSD, right? Because she went into that internalized shame of, it's not, I did something bad, which is guilt. It is, I am bad. And that creates the spiral happening. So understanding what it is prevents the gaslighting. Because what will often happen with friends and family is they go, it's not a big deal. I don't see why you're getting so upset about this. Just calm down. And we know that telling someone to calm down is never going to calm them down in any way, shape, or form, right? So instead, when you're both calm and you're both regulated and you've got that balanced nervous system, having that conversation about what it is and that it may feel for you like it's not a big deal, but for me, it really is. And then coming up with a meltdown plan of what to do or an RSD plan of what to do. So for my husband, very lucky man, married to me for almost 20 years and has to put up with us all the time. He has his checklist of what to do when I come home. And I use code words a lot because for me, I become situationally mute. So when the RSD triggers in, I either become aggressive and violent or I withdraw and I shut down completely and I'm unable to communicate. So in that scenario, if I'm in that situationally mute phrase or stage, we have a code word which is called Shirley Temple, which is a weird code word to have, but code words should always be things you never use in daily life. And if I say that, he knows that I'm in that downward spiral. And then his role is to literally get me my weighted blanket, get me the TV remote, put on one of my 6 comfort shows, whichever one I'm on at that point of time. Get me one of the cats. We have 4. I don't care which one it is, just one of them, a cup of tea, and then away. And by leaving me alone to regulate with those things, having something warm to drink, having a weighted blanket, the pressure to bring my body down and calm my body down, then my body will calm to the point where he can have a conversation with me about, okay, let's look at this differently and try and go into the prefrontal cortex at that stage. It took a long time to learn that through both of us, right? Because he wanted me to feel better, because he loves me, he wants me to feel better, but telling me it's gonna be okay when I'm in that RSD spiral isn't gonna work until I've regulated my body. So looking with your friends and your family, what is it that helps you? Is it a walk outside? Is it something like a fidget that gives you that little pain point, like Bernie here? Or is it a hot drink? Is it a glass of water? And what is it that you need? And often, how long do you need it for? So, for a neurotypical's nervous system, it's 20 minutes to reset from a trigger, is how long it takes. For, for us neurodivergent, it could be up to 3 days before we're able to reconnect and have those conversations. So, having it there of a plan of what to do and what to look for when you are ready to reconnect and begin to look at it logically, right? Because again, if we try and force that too quickly, then we can flare up the RSD because we go into a shame spiral of, I shouldn't be feeling like this. And that just makes it worse because then we start telling ourselves off again, right? So it's finding the balance first, then going for the logic. So for me, that balance is there when my breathing changes, when my brain is no longer trying to catastrophize and make up what I should do at this particular point of time to save me coming through.
And it sounds like it's a very collaborative effort as well between the two parties to
Yes.
figure out a plan of attack. And
Yeah.
when it comes to balance as well, how do you balance asking for reassurance without becoming dependent on reassurance?
Yeah. It's There's two ways I look at that one, and I thought about that question for a lot because I was like, because my brain didn't RSD spiral on that question, Tina. It went into, oh my God, am I asking? Is this what's happening? What's going on? But what we want is the balance between it is what are we taking responsibility for ourselves, right? And that's the nervous system rebalance. For the work I do in the trauma informed space, I'll often say I do 17 things a week to try and keep my nervous system in balance. And it doesn't always work. But that's the thing that gets missed. So as soon as if we take from an employee situation and we have an employee who starts skipping lunches and sits at their desk and works through lunch, you've taken away, or they've taken away, that chance for their nervous system to reset during the day and to recharge, right? And then that means they're more likely to go into an RSD spiral. So there needs to be, I'm always like a satisfactory, satisfactory. So I don't go win win because that's not possible, but satisfactory, satisfactory. What is it that the person needs to do on a daily basis to help calm them? What does the person needs to do on a daily basis to help calm them? And then what is it that the people around them need to do? So if you've got someone who struggles with social connection and finds it really hard and you know that they've had social connection that day, then giving them space at home before you ask them anything can then be that joint connection with you without making it feel like a burden. It's not that they can't come and ask you, they just need to give you a period of time beforehand. In my household, my husband will book a fishing trip. If he knows I've been away for 3 days presenting and then I'm coming home, he will book a fishing trip for the day that I'm away. Sorry, the day that I'm home, so that he's not there that day, so that I have the reconnect and then we can reconnect with each other the next day around it. And it's helping each person have that awareness of how do they get energy and what drains their energy. And that helps the balance and the burden when they have that understanding because you're able to go, look, this is where my battery's at. What is it that we can do differently around this?
Hmm. So it's about understanding yourself and also communicating that to the people around you as well.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Hmm. And the responsibility, when you talked about responsibility, comes first with, say, if you can experience the RC hitting, your first step is, as you said, emotionally regulate and physically regulate, and then step yourself through that. And then at what point do you reach out to other people to help you?
Yeah. Again, it's going to be very particular to each person and their relationship with the other people. So for me, I reach out to my husband very quickly. Generally, when I'm still in that spiral, I'll let him know. But then I have other friends that I can text, and I just literally I text RSD alert, right? And then they will send me memes to make me laugh, or they will arrange a time to sit online with me and watch a TV show with me, but not talk to me. So that we're almost doing a body doubling of calming and co-regulating through the nervous system. It's all around knowing what works best for you to calm you down, and then who are those key people. And for me, I think if you're going over 3 people that you call on, you're actually causing more issues for yourself, because then you have to make a decision about who to contact. But if you know these are my key people that I know, I can just say this is what's going on, and they have the instructions of what to do with you, then it really works. And there's a fabulous YouTube clip if people want to go and watch it. It's called Joe and Eva Survivor. And it was, I think, last 2024's Survivor show. And Eva's autistic and she has a meltdown in one of the tasks. And Joe co-regulates her at the end of it. And I use it all the time in my workshops, and people are in tears watching it, because we see from someone who is absolutely falling apart and unable to breathe that she won the task, and all of her colleagues and her teammates going, "This is great, you did great." And they're all trying to celebrate and do all these things. And she's falling apart. And Joe comes up, and he had been given the instructions that to hug her very tightly and then to hold her hands and breathe with her, and to just repeat that. And you actually watch her physical response and her nervous system calm inside it. And it's about a 7-minute video that's probably one of the most powerful you will ever watch in regards to supporting neurodivergent people.
I'm gonna watch it. I can already feel myself tearing up just imagining that video.
Got so many rabbit holes for that and side quests, because it went viral, and then they had interviews with them and everything. It's wonderful. It's just so heartening to watch. Yeah.
I can imagine, definitely. Okay, I'm gonna go cry later when I watch it. So, and this is a more of a curious question, but does RSC make it harder to receive love as well as criticism?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think it makes us more suspicious of love. It makes I want certainly makes us more suspicious of positive feedback. In regards to love, I think it's sort of combined and twisted in with our masking and how we feel comfortable to be ourselves, right? This is solely off the top of my head. This is not research based in any way. This is solely lived experience here. Just want to clarify that. For me, to feel loved, I need to be my real self with someone. If it's the mask and I'm scripting to talk to them, and my autistic mask is up, well, my neurotypical mask is up to hide my autistic self, then any love that I receive isn't going to feel real. It's going to feel fake to me, because they don't know who I am. Does that sort of make sense? Whereas if that mask is down, and the mask is down, they'll see me at my worst in those RSD moments. And if they still love me for that, then we're going to get through. And certainly in my past relationships, if I look back to, when I was in my 20s, I wasn't accepted in those RSD moments. They were made worse by the people who claimed to love me. But I didn't really believe that they did, if that makes sense.
It sounds like vulnerability, right?
Yeah, definitely. The feedback sandwich that they use in workplaces, I'd love to destroy, because that certainly doesn't work for RSD. So you get the good thing, the good thing, it's awful, horrific. It's removed. I'm like, get rid of the feedback sandwich. It does not work.
On that note, then, so what are some strategies for people coming into performance review time when it comes to RSD?
Yeah. The first thing is validate. Validate the value and be explicit about the value that you see in the individual. And there's a real difference from particularly if you're heading up to that performance appraisal or meeting, there's a difference between you've got someone doing their job and someone not doing their job. Okay. And both people can have RSD. And if it's someone doing their job, then you really need to validate what they're doing well. And you need to be curious about where they feel they need to improve and then bring them down from where they want to go. Because they're going to go, you're going to give you an example. They're going to say, okay, I'm performing at an 8 out of 10 in my communication strategies or whatever. And they're going to go, okay, well, I now need to be a 12 out of 10 to be okay, because the RSD is going to want perfection, right? So it becomes explicit about the modeling with it. So if you're asking them to improve and you're setting goals, you're going into, I love Brené Brown's statement of paint it done. So show them explicitly what you are looking for and make that really clear that to improve, your next step is this, and this is what it would look like when you achieve that, because they're going to take it bigger and then lead into burnout. If it's someone who's not doing their job well, you need to emphasize in those initial meeting discussions that we're there to support you and to look at how those accommodations work. Particularly in organizations I'm working with, I'm seeing a lot of accommodations being put in place with really great intent on both sides, but they're not working. They're not actually supporting the individual to do the job. And then what's happening is that shame spiral is increasing because the employee goes, well, I can't ask for another accommodation because I'd give me one and it doesn't work, right? And the RSD is well in control there. Whereas if you set up an accommodation and you set up a feedback loop with it and you look at it and go, well, we're going to trial this for 3 weeks. If it's working, this is what we're going to see. And that's been a joint discussion between the two parties. Then you can check if it's working or not. And if it's not working, the person's more inclined to ask for something different at that point. Does that make sense? So often I'll have companies go, oh, well, we've given them noise cancelling headphones. And I'm like, okay, what was the issue with their work? And they said, oh, they're struggling to meet deadlines. And I'm like, well, how are noise cancelling headphones going to help them meet deadlines? What are you trying to do with that? Have you been explicit about the role? Have you painted it done? Have you shown them explicitly what you want and who needs to be involved and what's going on and had clear agendas? And they're like, no, we gave them noise cancelling headphones. Right. So we need to work on what we're doing and why to support that RSD with it.
So from the sounds of it, it's about being super clear and making sure that the other person isn't left in the dark and isn't uncertain about where things are going. And then coming from the employee side, what can they do? What strategies can they have going into a performance review when it comes to RSD?
Yeah, I love the biodex. I'm not sure if it's something you've ever come across before. We use it at Altogether Autism in New Zealand, and a biodex is a one pager about how to work with me. And on my blog, I've got one I can flick it through to your team if you want to share it with people about what it looks like. I've got my one on there. So it has very clear instructions about how to communicate with me. So it says what times to email me or Teams meeting me. It tells them what to do in an emergency if they need to get hold of me to do something, how to do it. At no point in the biodex does it say ring me, because phone calls terrify me, so I'm not going to answer the phone. So it just has those clear instructions, and it has how do I like to work? How do I get along with colleagues? What special supports do I need? What are my special skills? It's a whole range of things. And it has, it's funny when I use it with coaching clients, we work together to use it. They go and take it to their manager or their line manager. And then the line manager goes, do you mind if I share this with the team? And then the line manager says, and everyone else in the team, now you're creating one of these because I need one of these for each of you on how to do it. So it's one of those techniques that works across neurodivergent people and neurotypical because it outlines what to do, right? And what you can do with that biodex when you get in there and you're heading into that performance review is you can look at it and go, okay, where they're asking me to improve inside this biodex, what is it that I need them to improve so I can improve this? and that's your satisfactory, satisfactory. So if they're asking you to improve deadlines, but they're not clear on the expectations of tasks, then there's an element that both of you need to improve to get that KPI being met.
Mhm. Sounds like once again it's about collaboration and not bowing down and being able to communicate your own standards and boundaries as well. And
Yeah.
how do you do that without feeling like too much? Because I can imagine it
Yeah.
feeling quite, yeah, quite scary to put yourself out there, especially in a work environment.
Absolutely. That I'll go back to your nervous system as well. If your nervous system is out of balance, you're not going to be able to do it. So ensuring that you're taking care of yourself and you're putting that nervous system in balance before you're having those conversations. Again, I would use AI with them to practice the conversations and actually go, if I say this, what argument could my leader have with this? If I say this, what something else? So that you're beginning to practice it through. What some people don't realize with AI is that, particularly if you've got a private AI, you can set up an avatar on one of the pages. So you could have your manager avatar where you tell AI that this is what my manager is like. Here's the feedback I've got of them. This is how they write. And then you can put something there and ask for that avatar's feedback on it. And it's pretty accurate what it will come through, provided you've told them enough about the person to have it there. And that allows you to prepare and it allows you to script in a way that's going to be beneficial for you rather than preparing 17 different scripts to go in no matter where the conversation is going to go. Right. The other thing I do a lot with teams is I actually get people to be really clear on how they like feedback. So when I work with teams, I have sort of it's a 4-question, very simple multi-choice ABCD that you select, and it selects the type of feedback that you like. Are you the person who likes it softly, softly? Or are you the person who likes it very clear and direct? Or do you want lots of data? And using that means that it keeps the RSD in control, right? So if you're someone who likes things very clear and direct, and your manager is a softly, softly person and sits down and goes, I was thinking about the meeting last week and I wasn't sure what was going on. And I wonder when you reflect about that meeting, is there anything you think that was an issue? Right? The clear and direct person's going nuts with their RSD right then because it's going, what are they trying to say? What have I done wrong? What's happening? Whereas if they've said to the manager, I want it clear and direct, they can sit down and go, hey, on the meeting on Wednesday, you interrupted someone mid sentence. What do we need to do to stop that happening? And that keeps the RSD in control if they're the clear and the direct person. If they're a softy, softy person and someone says, hey, in the meeting last Wednesday, you did this, they're going to then their RSD flares with it. So
Mhm.
again, knowing yourself and being able to articulate which one. The other thing I don't think we do enough of is taking a support person with us when we have those meetings. Any meeting can have a support person with you. It doesn't have to be a formal employment issue to have one there. And I think sometimes we do need to have someone there who just being there keeps us calm. And also us setting how those meetings are held. So if we prefer them to be online or face to face, or to be a conversation through email. Many leaders have um, that leadership training of you must do every challenging conversation face to face. But for a neurodivergent person, sometimes the online is a far easier way to have that conversation because they can have notes down that they can look at and they can have someone sitting off camera that supports them and holds their hand or just is there to keep them calm. So recognizing for yourself what is inside your control with those meetings. And I recognize there are some nasty managers out there that say, no, we're going to do it this way. But particularly in the organizations I work with, they're looking at how do they do more to set up the environment to support those employees to ease that burn as much as possible.
What kind of careers or environments tend to amplify RSD?
I don't think there's one career or environment that does it. I think it's an equal opportunity RSD. I think if you've got it, it's going to show up in whatever career you have and it's going to show up in all your personal relationships as well. I sort of thought about it. I was like, okay, I was originally a teacher and my RSD was quite bad in teaching. So I got out of teaching and I became a cake decorator. And then I had to deal with brides. And oh my God, my RSD with brides was 10 times worse than it was dealing with students and principals. Right. So I think the RSD's going to be there. And I think that's something we need to kind of accept and go, well, what's our plan? What's in our control? What can we do? Because sometimes changing careers, and if 100% when people say to me, oh, we had an employee and we sent them an email saying we wanted to talk to them and they sent back, I quit. And they're like, what happened with that? I'm like, that's an RSD response. They will immediately leave the situation rather than having the conversation.
Mhm. Does RSD ever go away, or is it more about, because I remember at the very beginning as well, you're mentioning someone and they it triggered a sort of shame spiral where they were like, I'm not good enough. And it's a core belief that's been held, I guess, from the programming of childhood where you got rejected 2000 times. So does RSD ever fully go away, or does some deeper work have to happen?
That's why I'd call it emotional sunburn, because it's out there. It's like the sun being out there. But if you put sunscreen on, you can protect yourself from it. And if you do get burnt, you can put aloe vera on and calm yourself. But it's not going to go away. Right. And I'm sure a lot of people are like, I don't want to hear that, Brooke. I want to hear that there's a magic wand and a pill that we can go and take that's going to go away. Counseling helps a lot. Acceptance, I used acceptance and commitment therapy when I saw my psychologist. I found that incredibly helpful. Russ Harris' book, The Happiness Trap, I found really, really helpful. And that's where I stole and That's Okay from, which is, as I said, one of my major ones. So you can look at therapy around that, but again, it's using the tools inside your toolbox to A, protect yourself from it, and B, recover when it happens.
Mhm. And what is a more helpful way to relate to RSD then? Because if you can't get rid of it and if you can't escape it, what would be a better way to relate to it?
I think about it as being the little thing inside me that wants to make me better and wants to keep me safe. So I see it as something that protects me, and I'm just working out how to let it know when it doesn't need to protect me. Right. So if someone's coming at me and attacking me, I want my RSD to flare up and go, this is a really bad situation. We need to get out of here. We need to run. We need to do this. But if it's an email, I don't need to do that and have that same response. So for me, and again, it's probably how my brain works. I have an avatar for it. I have a little image in my brain when the RSD clicks in. So for me, it's Corella DeVille. And I just see Corella taking control of my brain and going, right, we're doing this, we're doing this, we're doing this. And I just try and get it a step back and sit in the back seat for a little while and go, no, we're going to do this my way instead. Yeah.
Having a way to externalize it rather than it swirling around in your head.
Yeah. Yeah. And then using, like you said, that imagination for a good thing, you can put Corella in a box and just sort of go sit over there for a while. I'll come back to you when I calm down.
I love that. And definitely as well, it sounds like Russ Harris, the Happiness Trap book, and how he also externalizes things as well. So guys, check it out if you want to learn more about your own Corella.
Yeah.
And were you going to say something?
Nope, nope, all good.
No, just breathing. Okay. So when it comes to one thing that you want neurodivergent people to understand about their RSC, what would that be?
It doesn't make you bad. Having a RSD is not there because you're bad, and it's not there because you do things wrong. It's there because of playing the game on a hard level. That's where it is. And if we can work on things, little things inside our control to help calm us, then the RSD isn't going to have the same effect that it does if we just try and go along with the world. But the more we know ourselves, the more we can protect ourselves.
Hmm. And what you mentioned before about how we can use it to protect us. Is there another example of how we can use RSD for good?
Yeah, absolutely. Listen to it, question it, going, what's real with this? What do I need to be afraid of? And then work out, and once you calm your body, work out whether or not you need to listen to that, because it's going to point out the things that may not be a good idea sometimes.
Yeah. It's sort of like perhaps a wild horse and it has a lot of
Okay.
energy. Yeah, a lot of energy, but we need to be able to tame it from the sounds of it. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
And I also yeah, and I know you also have Neuro Nuggets for Caboose as well.
Do.
Is there any takeaways for our audience that people can also get from your Neuro Nuggets?
The Neuro Nuggets, I've got my favorite Neuro Nugget that I did was on the 5 areas of stress. So it looks at cognitive, social, pro-social, emotional, and physical. I got that one for the moment. So those 5 areas of stress looks at how do they show up in the workplace environment and what's inside our control. And very much talks into the cumulative load that we carry with stress, which again leads into the RSD. If we're carrying lots and lots of things and that cumulative load's built up and up and up, then it's going to have a huge impact. If we lower across those 5 areas of stress, then that chance of burnout reduces, and also we just a lot happier and have a lot more energy inside our lives. So that's my neuro nugget that I think you should go and check out. I had a lot of fun doing it.
I love it. Thanks for sharing that. And by the way, Neuro Nuggets, guys, is a short practical guide that helps. It's like micro learning, micro courses. So if you're interested, go check it out for Brooke as well. And we are at the end now, and we've covered a lot of interesting things about RC and the workplace and learning about you, Brooke. So thank you so much for coming on today. And
Very
if you have any questions, oh, good. If you have any questions or anything, where's the best place to find you, Brooke?
Yeah, so my company's called Potential to Performance. So you can go to potentialtoperformance.co.nz is my website. And I work across New Zealand, Australia, Canada, and Singapore. So, and there's a mailing list they can hop onto if they want to, or they can just get in touch with me through booking a chat. Like I said, don't ring me, but book in a chat and we can have a Zoom conversation.
Yeah, pigeon mail only.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, everyone, and thank you, Brooke, for today. And if you're watching this later on YouTube or any other platform, feel free to drop any of your reflections or questions in the comments as well. And with that, we'll see you later. Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.